6 hours worth of teaching is not optimal. It's not actually an optimal thing to do. They are going to burn out. And actually, you know what? They may not want to do it that many days a week. I know one thing for sure. I'm an individual. I teach individual lessons mostly. And if I had the choice tomorrow, if someone said, "I'll take care of all your bills, James, go do what you want to do," I'd be going into my daughter's classroom nearly every day of the week to teach the kids. You know, because. And I'm sure that's what would happen in a resource-based economy. They would go to different classes to cover a variety of different skills, and ones they're more, you know, and ones they're more interested in, they'd spend more time on them, and eventually that would blossom into people being able to explore any different area of learning and topics. When they chose, rather than this arbitrary fashion we have things done today. And I think Jacques put it well when he said, kids are asked, "What do you want to be when you're older?" as if there was only one answer.
Yeah, exactly. It's it reminds me of the wait a second. Sorry about that. It reminds me of the Eddie Izzard quote when he was asked, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And he was like, "I want to be an astronaut. I want to discover planets that no one has ever discovered." Well, we're British. We've got to scale it down, all right?
Yeah, just put them in that box, you know. Limit their imagination.
Exactly.
Yeah, why not? No, let's go back to what we can afford.
Exactly. I mean, in respect of this question, though, one thing that came to mind when I read this question is one thing that I think I heard this from Jacques saying that when he said that learning will be oriented more towards a practical orientation, where there will be the amount of field trips will be a hell of a lot more. In fact, it will probably be more orientated towards field trips, like going out into nature, learning in the actual, environment that you're studying in, not just being cooped up in a classroom all day.
God, absolutely. I mean, our educational system is based on the Industrial Revolution and the Age of the Enlightenment, where human beings were to be essentially machines in factories producing products. With the advent of technology, it's obvious that that's not necessary anymore. And if you think it through, even though it may have been reasonably necessary at the time, it's not. It wasn't particularly a nice thing to have to do to move humanity forward, to treat us all like a bunch of robots. And so that teaching style was really thought up hundreds of years ago. It's actually hundreds of years out of date, much like our language and many other things. But the idea of a teacher standing at the front of a class telling everybody what to do, in my view, isn't helping with direct. Teaching should be about empowerment. Empowerment of this, it should be about taking power away from you and putting it in the place of the student. But if you think about it like this, if I'm someone's teacher and they are paying me a wage, right, each week, why the hell would I want to empower them? Why the hell? It's going to take away what puts food on my table. No thanks. I'd rather spoon feed the person for the rest of their life, so that they are constantly coming back to me, so that I can pay my way. And that's not how I teach. I couldn't give a flying bollocks. I teach people to be able to try to teach them to stand on their own 2 feet and couldn't care less. I'd rather go hungry than sell my soul for 30 pieces of silver. But the point I'm trying to make is that you can see the dichotomy there. Is why would you want to empower a bunch of students? So they stop relying on you? That's that's not really a good idea in our culture.
I think we're straying from the point here, dude, because we're always already like quite a way into it, and we need to get through these questions. So.
Yeah, sorry, I do that.
That's all right. It's perfectly fine. I mean, if we had time to fill, then we could fill our boots. But Anyway, next question, question 4. Will students be expected to manage a workload outside of regular learning hours?
Well, it's not that there'd be necessarily regular learning hours. It's all on a voluntary basis. So there would be an educational, the centre of the city is a recreational, sort of entertainment, educational. It's all rolled into, community centre, all rolled into one kind of thing. So it's got to be voluntary. That's the thing. It can't be forced. It has to be voluntary. What of course you want to nurture learning in a child so that they can grow into someone who can contribute to such a society. But no, there wouldn't be any forced education going on anywhere. And if you want to learn if you're in your own home, I'm sure there'd be technological tools for you to be able to do that. And so no, I don't think there'll be any sort of mandatory homework to any extent you'd want to do. If you did do that, it would be because you want to. Exactly.
I mean, one of the things I've thought about this issue is that the idea of learning hours within it in of itself is a product of the system itself. That it's almost like the hours of a shift when you go to work. It's like the learning hours of a school day is almost set up so it prepares you for the kind of orientation of a work shift. And but in an RBE, is if you think about it from the larger perspective, do you ever stop learning? If you're actively wanting to learn things all the time, there's no hours in a day that you say, right, I'm going to start learning now, and you start absorbing information, and then there's a certain hour on the clock where you go, right, I'm not learning now, brain shut down.
Well, that's exactly it. If you look, education. I think I said this in my talk at Z-Day. Education reflects culture, and culture reflects education. So your kids go to school when you were at work, and it's fascinating. The kids at the primary schools now, they have got Friday, which is a reward for them being good and listening to all the boring shit that you shove down their throat all week. So, and it's exactly the same as what we do on a Friday night. What do we do after our working week is over? We go and get drunk. And basically that golden time you're giving them at the end is essentially the getting drunk that they're going to do later when they finish work after a 5-day week. It's just one of the many reflections that you get of how the educational system is based on the culture of that they're going into. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's since we were talking about that, we've actually answered the next question as well, because the question was about learning hours as well. So we'll move on to question 6. Will students be able to choose their learning environment, topics, and/or equipment? How will these be decided?
Well, we decided. They'll be decided by the necessary sort of studies, behavioural studies into what works to get kids motivated about subjects that pertain to an actual a development of certain things that correlate to the physical world, as we were mentioning earlier. So if there is a manner in which you can help to make a child of a certain age interested in a certain topic, and that's the right age to go about it, and there's a certain way to go about getting them interested in it, then great. Now, a lot of people, at that point may say, "Oh, you're trying to brainwash them," but essentially that's all anybody ever does. You don't sit down a 3-year-old in front of a Richard Dawkins documentary. They're just not gonna get it. And so that anyway. The point is an RBE, rather than it serving the interests of profit and personal consumption, it will serve the interests of a whole community and the sustainability in every way, shape and form of that community. And that's what and it will be based on actual physical, tangible evidence and study.
Absolutely. Right. Is any more on that question, or shall we move on?
I think that covers it quite nicely.
Okie dokie. Right. Question 7. This is a bit of a long one. Well, in context of the others. Currently, educational facilities are either government run, and in brackets, and mandatory for basic education, or privatised, and in further brackets, and costly for further and higher education. What will be the structure of academia within a resource-based economy?
Sorry, I missed that last bit of academia in a resource.
Yeah, what will be the structure of academia?
That's a very interesting one. I think I kind of might have skipped on this in an earlier question, where you'd have different facilities and different educational areas, for different purposes. For instance, there may be someone who has a passion for physics, and there'd be a physics department, and there'd be a physics area that would.
Oh, I think what they mean is how will I think that they're speaking on in terms of a curriculum, so not necessarily the physical structures, but the how the academic what's the word? How the academic curriculum will be orientated.
Right. Yeah. Well, as I was saying earlier, it's based on the most up-to-date research and scientific studies by all fields, because of course we think about the physical sciences here, but of course human behaviour, sociology will be a part of that, and how we learn is a science that will be studied in a resource-based economy, and the curriculum, would be structured therein. But it would be contributed to by everyone, and actually the education would be reflected within the computer systems as well that run the city. The educational system is part of the running. It's the heartbeat of the running of a resource-based economy. So as a physical referent between us, each other, the environment, back out again, through to the systems that run it, and back through. So it's a complete synergistic approach. So the curriculum would reflect that, something that's relevant, that's been proven to work, to help get students interested in a certain topic, would be used. And when it's found that there's a better method that we could use to do that, then we'll do that. Maybe we'll keep the old one. People might like the old one. They'll carry on with that. Some people will go to the new. Some people like to see, to learn. Some people like to touch. Some people like to just hear. There's lots of different ways, and all, can be and should be catered for in a resource-based economy.
So it's really a case of just looking at how each individual child will finds easiest to learn, whether it's I think it's aesthetic learning, like learning by doing, or I think that's the only adjective of different learning that I can think of off the top of my head. But the different forms of learning, it will be analysed on an individual basis, and there will be different disciplines of learning through those methodologies.
Yeah, exactly, and you try and cater for all areas basically, and whilst always leaning very, very heavily on teaching critical thinking, and teaching everything with an empirical basis and a physical referent, and teaching kids that it's a necessary thing to be wrong, and to cherish it in a way, whereas our culture doesn't cherish it. To be wrong means you might get fired, so don't fucking do that.
Yeah, exactly. That's just one really backwards thing about the idea of learning is, how we actually learn, is through making mistakes.